Welcome to Misfits and Mystics podcast, where we have conversations intersecting faith, mental health, artistry, and social justice. We're so glad you're here. So get cozy.
But not too cozy, because we do keep it real on this podcast.
Listen with care.
And enjoy.
Hey friends, it's just me, Abra. Some of you may be wondering, where's Alicia? Well, fret not, she'll be back next week, sending her lots of love. This week we have another special guest, Whitney Gaston, and I can't wait for you all to be inspired by our conversation. Just want to give a brief content warning that we mentioned some things about domestic violence and spiritual trauma, so please take care of yourself as you listen, and if you need to sit this one out, we understand. Today I have my good friend Whitney Gaston, who you have heard us mention on the show before, and now she's here.
I'm here, and I'm queer.
And we don't have any beer.
No beer.
Whitney's a really good friend of mine. I feel like we've known each other for
lifetimes.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
But officially a little under a year.
Yeah.
We met because we're both starving artists, and just the universe connected us when it was time for that to happen, and we danced and found together, and that was a beautiful experience.
Absolutely.
And if you want to tell the listeners just a little bit about who you are, what you do.
I'm a little seal girl living in the real world, and it's so hard to get by because seals can't even cry. Hopefully some of them listen or watched as told by Ginger. I consider myself an artist. Dance is my main form of art, but I do like to dive into other things like photography and videography. I paint, but I'm not good at it. In my opinion, it's just a release. I do write as well, so anything arts related, I'm in it. I grew up in Murfreesboro, which is right down the street, and it's turning into what I feel like Antioch in Nashville was like a million years ago.
Yeah.
Because I used to go home and be like, whoo, no traffic, this is nice. And now I don't even want to visit it because I'm like, I'm going to the same thing.
Yeah, the growth is like expanding out to the, even those like smaller areas like Murfreesboro, Smyrna.
Yeah. And you hear people talk about, rent is cheaper out here. And I'm like, shh. Quiet. Don't talk about that.
I know. So I'm excited to have you because you're kicking off a series that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. This idea is actually one of the things that spawned the idea of me starting a podcast, and Alicia was super instrumental in the beginning of these conversations that we're having. So
hey, Alicia girl.
Hey. Alicia's at work, so teaching the kids, but last summer I started this little project that I'm calling Queering Dance, and it was right on the cusp after I decided to come out as queer. And once I had done a lot of the introspective work, I started asking, what does that mean for me as an artist? And I've just sort of been on this journey ever since, and I started asking my friends, whether they were identified as LGBTQ or not, like how their identities like impact their identity as an artist. And there were some very fruitful conversations with that. And so when we decided to start the podcast, I was like, I kind of want to give this idea a platform and evolve it. So I figure who better to have first than Whitney, because you and I have had many conversations,
many,
and also just experiencing moving with you and working with you in an artistic way has really opened me up to dive in more with this process. And I've learned so much from you, and so
don't make me cry on a podcast.
We won't cry yet.
Okay.
But tears are welcome. But yeah, I've learned a lot, and I think you have a voice, and it needs to be shared. So we'll just dive right into it. So the first question that I ask people, and I actually want to give credit to someone in the way that I'm asking this question. I want to shout out Matthias Roberts, who's the host of Queerology, who has been influential in my journey as a queer person of faith. And one of the questions that he asked his guests is, how do they identify and how does that inform their faith? Wow. And so I'm going to flip that and say, how do you identify and how is that informing you as an artist?
Wow. So, I'm one of those people that really despises the fact that we have to label so much. Mm-hmm. But I also take a lot of pride and power in what I do identify as and what is comfortable to me. And I will say that I identify as demi-pan. So demisexual and pansexual. So I know, for some people, they don't realize how wide the spectrum of sexuality is, and sexuality is so much deeper than a physical thing. For me, I identified as pansexual first because I knew that I was attracted to just souls. It wasn't really oh, that's a guy and I like him, or oh, that's a girl and I like her and I want to, it was never that for me. Even as a child, it was never that. And I found a hard time grasping onto what was it was just hard for me to grasp the whole idea of me being into someone but not understanding the fact that there's more than just straight. Or even then, I don't even think I knew what being gay meant. I don't think I knew that. So as pansexual, of course, I don't gender is not a factor to me whatsoever. Being demisexual, more so on definitely right on the emotional tip. It's just I'm not physically intimate with people that I don't have an emotional connection to. I've never had a one night stand ever. It sounds fun, possibly, but I just don't connect with people in that way. And it's interesting because I don't feel that we choose who we love, but my identifying with being demisexual has made me wonder what my experiences prior to being physically intimate have to do with me being demisexual. And that is something that I'm really trying to explore now. But I definitely identify as pansexual and demisexual. Yeah.
And then how's that informing you as an artist?
I've always been the type of artist, especially choreographically, that's okay, pick a partner. If I'm teaching you work that requires partnering or whatever, pick a partner. I'm not fixing it. And naturally people are oh, let me grab this girl, let me grab this guy, because I am, and it's so gender fueled and masculinity, femininity, bullshit, But for me, within my art, I literally want to blur those lines because I think that they are blurred, really. I think that we're just conditioned to think this is the United States of America. We're so bad about that. So bad about what we wear, what we say, what we do, what activities we engage in that all has to do with, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, your masculinity or your femininity. And I just say go out there and fuck shit up as you. So in my art, I really like, I don't care about those lines unless I'm trying to tell a specific story. I really try to blur those lines.
Yeah. I think that's the whole premise of queering dance or queering art. Like, there are no barriers, or there's a breaking down of constructs that I think is easier for us to do and explore as queer people, as opposed to people that are still stuck in the binaries. And I think, like, as you were saying, how you identify as being this open person, that's just open to like connecting and loving anyone regardless of who they are, how they present themselves. I've definitely seen how that makes you more open to like receiving things, because art is very much a give and take. And I think if you already have a mindset of being open, then you're much more palpable to absorb what's being given to you and take ownership of it and not be afraid of it. And it's beautiful to see, to witness. It's something that I think is lacking in a lot of spaces. I think people have this assumption that all artists are these like wide open vessels, but there's a lot of people working in like the arts industries that are still very closed off, still very stuck in their binary, in their binaries, and it's just like,
I mean, and that will blow your mind the moment that you realize that. It's like, what? Even here.
I mean, Alicia and I have talked about it several times because she's also a dancer, and we talk a lot about how we feel like dance right now, it feels the same, like everybody's just regurgitating the same thing over and over and over again, and feeling like that fire of passion is burning out so quickly. There's so much burnout now in the dance industry and
social media.
That and also just people closing themselves off to doing that deep exploration work and then transferring that into their work in whatever craft they're pursuing. So with that, like, I'm sure that like you didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm Pan, I'm Demi. Like,
no.
It took a lot of introspective work. And then also, once you did that introspective work, then there's the work of like being authentic and sharing that with others. So can you talk a little bit about what that introspective work looked like, and then what coming out was like?
Coming out of the closet. I got drug out of the closet by my hypothetical ponytail. I think it's interesting because I've always had an attraction to women as well, but I am a preacher's kid, as you know. But the listeners don't know.
Whitney is part of the PK club.
My dad is actually a serving elder at a Church of Christ. And growing up in a Church of Christ in itself, to be honest, and I don't want to offend, but was a really rough thing. The expectations, the rules, the lack of self I felt within that construct was something that I could not wait to escape from. Even as a child, I was just like, man. And then there's all this pressure of like, oh, you're this age. When are you going to get baptized? When are you going to do what's right? And so one day I was just talking to my friends. I was like, y'all want to get baptized together? And they're like, yeah, I guess. None of us were excited about it. And I think that those friends of mine, the 3 girls that I did that with, they're still in the faith. And I think that that's beautiful for them. I don't think that my story and my trajectory had to follow. So, I was not open and honest about my feelings towards women because growing up in the faith, regardless of who I was around, because I grew up around a lot of people who were in other faiths, they really practiced that. My grandmother, the best person I've ever known in my life, I think she's probably the greatest person to ever walk this earth, missionary Baptist through and through. Southern. I would go to church with her. This lady fell out on me one time and caught the Holy Ghost, and I was like, ah, and pushed her off, and my granny was like, no, Whitney, no. And I'm like, what is this? My dad's family, some of them Seventh-day Adventists, I've seen Protestants, I've seen, there's so many different, and to me, it was so confusing because it was like, well, what? I don't, even reading the Bible, just certain things were just like, you mean to tell me we have this collection of stories and they're true, without a doubt. I'm a facts person. I'm like, how do I know? I was always really inquisitive. And then there was me, and I wasn't inquisitive enough about myself. But when I was 21, the first girl I dated was a friend of mine, and we grew up together. We've known each other since we were kids, and she was super, I don't know, we were friends, so it was easy. The one who said I could never breathe when we were talking that one day, never could with. That was the first girl I ever dated, and it was easy because that was my friend, and it was easy to relax and be myself because she knew. She always knew. But I was just like, no, I'm not gay. Because I thought that's all there was.
Yeah.
It's how can I dated the same guy off and on till I was 21 from the time I was in 8th grade. Off and on. He's an amazing guy. He's still an amazing guy. And I loved him very much. So I was very confused at how I could be so into, so many different souls and things and gender and, so when I was 21, I met this girl working at a gay nightclub. I danced back up for a queen, and I saw this drag king, and outside of drag, I just thought she was so captivating. I was so intrigued. Mystery really gets to me. If you're not laying it all out there, I'm like, whew, I gotta know. So I was dead set on that, and so I was like, I wanna be nice to her. I'm gonna get to know her. I'm gonna break her down. So I was just like, hey. She was just always really mean. And those head nods, just the chin up. I can't stand when people do that to me. If you ever see me in public, don't do it to me. It does not take that much to wave or to just say hi. I feel like it takes more effort to do that little head thing. But she did that to me every time, and it was so maddening. And then one day she was just super honest about being into me or whatever. And history, was made, and we went through our stuff. We 2 dates in a U-Haul, got straight to it. Hung out and never left each other's side after that first night. It's you want to spend the night? And then I spent every night after that for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some typical
it is lesbian stuff. Yeah. 2 dates in a U-Haul. I'm gonna marry her. But yeah, like definitely stereotypical. And I didn't even know about these things when this happened. So, but my parents, after it was ironic, it was. I'm not gonna say her name. I almost said it. It was our 1 year anniversary, and I had moved back into my parents' house because, unbeknownst to them, this relationship was very abusive. Very. And I was trying to wean my way back, like just wiggle right back in there. I knew they speculated some things when she was around, but we hadn't had conversation. So I remember my dad calling me one day and being like, hey, we need to talk. What time will you be at the house? And I was like, oh, this is it. I knew my gut. And she was like, no, it could be anything. Like, you're back at home, it could be anything. I'm like, dude, my dad is never like, not with me and us having a conversation, because it has to be organic. Because my father and I have had a lot of struggles in the past with our relationship, and I love him to death, and I think he's amazing. But we just had, part of it is because we're a lot alike. But I'm like the wild child, laid back version of him, and he's like super conservative and just like. So I was like, I know my dad is not scheduling a time to meet with me, because he's like, be ready when I'm ready. Like, he's my dad. So I knew it, and I get there. My siblings are sitting on the couch. My mom, I'm like, this feels a lot like an intervention. I watch a lot of that show, like I know. He's sitting there looking at his phone, not looking at me. He's like, so how long have you and her been dating? And I'm like, a year today, actually. And I felt like they know now, so let me sit and be comfortable in it, because it is what it is. Not knowing that even throughout that relationship, we both struggled with that. We both were brought up in a faith that was really strong, and what we thought was strong, and we had some discussions about it, and just like there was a point where we were like celibate. We weren't sexually active together because we were like, hey, maybe we can make this relationship work and still follow what God has planned and all this other stuff. We were we went through it. And so I was sitting there and I was like, but we're not having sex and da da da. My sisters are only, at this point, if I was 21, that would make my sisters like 14 and 15 at the time. Like, and they're just sitting there like watching me, and my parents just like claw into me, just like emotionally, and just like my mom was bawling. My dad's more the crier. I can definitely count on one hand how many times I've seen my mom cry. My dad's a sensitive kid. He's like, and it's cool, but my mom was bawling. I still to this day have never seen her cry like that. We've gone through her mother passing. I've never seen her cry like that. And how could you do this to us? And just feeling like, fuck. Like the worst person in the world. And I've prayed my entire life to not feel this way. And you're asking me how I could do this to you. And it was a stop being gay or get out. So I got my stuff. Because there was nothing I could do at that point. There was nothing they could do. All these therapies and this, like, you need to repent. You have to do this. You have to... No. So I had to move back in with her. And suffer that abuse still. I lived out of a car for a while. I was homeless for a while. Trying to figure out, okay, hey, she was all I had. I flunked out of school. I got put on probation and flunked out because I wasn't showing up. Because you can't show up when your eyes are swollen shut. Or you can't show up when you have a bruised rib, cracked tooth, you're missing like a whole piece of your tooth. All types of things that I couldn't do. I was strong enough mentally to go. Definitely. But I wasn't strong enough to like be like, yo, let me tell you what's going on. And it took a really, really bad one for her she was in the military as well, so she has a lot going on too. And she was abused, but like held a gun to my head and was like, yo, if you don't leave, I know I'm going to kill you. Like, I'm telling you, you have to go now because I have a problem. And I'll say I love you, and I know you believe it, and I know no one else will. But you have to leave. Like, there's nothing else. And I was still begging to stay. And thinking about it now and knowing where I was then and how sick I was, like, how physically, like, just, like, and mentally just not there whatsoever, I had to take a look into self and be like, okay, where is all this coming from? Because I was definitely that girl. I was definitely that, well, if they beat you, leave them. Mm-hmm. Definitely. And now I have to, like, my parents already have told everyone, you know, Whitney's out, Whitney's gay, Whitney's this, Whitney's that. I got what they call withdrawn from, but excommunicated from the church. They would not talk to me. My parents would not speak to me. Wouldn't allow my siblings to speak to me, which was the roughest part, I feel like, because my sister and I, my youngest sister and I are very close. And I'm sure she was very confused and just like, and I didn't want her to feel like I was making a choice other than her. And so my coming out process was a scary one. It was one that I still haven't reconciled with the people that I'm closest to, like my family. Mm. And we're in a whole nother plane in our relationship. It's beautiful. It's amazing. We have not talked about that. Not because of me. That's what I can say.
They're not ready or willing to
accept responsibility.
Yeah.
That's what I fully believe. Because I think then the introspect I had to do for Whitney, they're going to have to do for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's one thing to have a strong belief about sexuality or how that's panning out in your life. I mean, I'm sure there are people, I know there are people in my family who are scratching their heads, thinking this is wrong, and probably concerned for my soul. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to have that mentality and to have those difficult conversations that, you know, we all have to endure some sort of emotional labor with.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to be so adamant about that belief to the point that you're willing to see your child be abandoned and to be put in harm's way. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's a lot of guilt that comes with that. Yeah. And there's something to be said, particularly within the Black community. There's something about this, the generational trauma, and we have talked a little bit about this on the podcast, and I feel like it's becoming a reoccurring theme for us. But I think when dealing with that generational trauma and guilt, it makes it a little more difficult for us to admit when we have contributed to putting one of our own in danger just to uphold a belief system or an idea or a binary system that we think holds us afloat,
when it's really doing the opposite.
Yeah. And as a person who still identifies as a Christian, and I say this loosely. But as someone who still believes that she's held by Christ, I often wonder, like, what is preventing us, for those of us that are still in the faith, like, why can't we just trust and believe that God's love is enough? And why do we continue to go back to the, like I don't even know. I'm at a loss for words right now
because it's intense.
And it's very intense. It's something that I'm very passionately trying to get people to understand. The very real, like, reality of the fact that, like, there's this complexity of your parents love you, yet, like, their actions don't always portray that, and how,
like, trying to start a fire.
Yeah.
It's like, you want this fire, I need this warmth, but I'm smothering it instead of giving it breath and life.
Yeah. Yeah. And so,
queering faith.
Yes. Wow. Maybe we should do. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So with, obviously that's like a lot of pain to process. And in my experience, like, as a dancer, I feel like there's this narrative of dance being an outlet, a form of helping us to process and free ourselves from those traumatic moments. Do you think that dance did that for you? Or is it like
in a lot of ways it has, especially in the stance I take on racial injustice. As far as being queer, not yet. I'm waiting on that breakthrough. I really am. I think that because I identify as black first, like, and that's something that I've always known, because even if I would have forgot, somebody told me, you know, some experience told me, some, you know, like, whatever it was. Being queer in dance, I honestly don't think so yet. I think that I'm still waiting on that opportunity. I'm still waiting on being cast in something where I am having to tap into those feelings that are still, I think I'm very into myself, but I think that I still have questions about myself. Like, I was just thinking about this and talking to my parents about the show, because I really wanted to make sure that I talk to them about the way I see it, because I wanted to know if they were really, like, into the show, paying attention, or they were just like, oh, I'm following Whitney, which they did, but, like, did you really get something from following me? And I had a conversation with them about how I really want to dive into that as a choreographer and just talk about that and my journey, and even stories that I've heard from other people who have gone through things like similar to what I've gone through. And I mentioned that I did not give them the chance to react to my being queer. I was so afraid of the reaction and protecting myself that I didn't say, hey, and not to say they don't have the responsibility, not to say that they have every right to have acted how they acted. I don't agree with that. I will never agree with it. I will always stand where I'm at. That's that, and they know that. But I did not say, hey, mom and dad, my sexuality is something that I'm really trying to grow into, but I do have this attraction. I didn't give them the moment to be like, what? No, shut up. You don't believe that. They never did that because they didn't get the chance to. They also never got to say, hey, we love you anyway. They never had the chance. Do I think they would have been calm and pacified about it? No. But I'm not stupid. But I have to be honest with myself about that. So in being honest with myself, it's like, dude, I should really dive into creating something, even if it's not dance. Maybe it's film, maybe it's writing, whatever it is, about my experience. Because in artistry, that is the one thing I have not touched, I feel like. And what is that in me, you know? Mm-hmm. Is that like am I like subconsciously afraid of it? So, not yet, but shit, I mean, dancing with you and being around you, just like, we spend quite a bit of time together in dance, but also as people. And if y'all hear my stomach growling, I'm sorry, I need a piece of chicken. But
same.
Oh my gosh. But like being around people like you and just like going through this journey together, especially being Black women who are queer, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's only made me want to stand in that more and be proud of it. So yeah, I'm glad you asked me that, because I need to like go ahead and dive in.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way, and I think every time I've made a discovery about myself or about the world in which I live, at not long after I start thinking, how do I incorporate like my artistry as a dancer or a choreographer into it, I definitely think that I'm experiencing it with my sexuality and my racial identity at the same time. It's scary a little bit, because I realize that a lot of my dancing has been through the lens of whiteness and
definitely
heteronormativity. And you know, even growing up here in Tennessee, even though, you know, us artsy folk are weird, there's still this underlining culture of, you know, it's always about for the glory of God and upholding a certain societal.
That Bible Belt fits tight.
Yeah. Everybody's still catering to the Bible Belt mentality, even if they don't personally subscribe to that life or that belief. It's fascinating to see.
It is.
And I think like spending time away from the Bible Belt and like growing as an artist in that way, and then coming back to the Bible Belt and realizing, oh wow, you know, my artistry has definitely been fueled by this lens that isn't me. And not that that is necessarily wrong. Like, obviously I'm grateful for the various teachers and mentors that have like poured into my life, that gave me the tools and skills, you know, just in general as a dancer. But I recognize that a lot of it like isn't me, and whether it was intentional of them or not, haven't really been given the space an opportunity to really dive in, like you were saying, with no apologies. I think that's what it is because I kind of want to disagree. I feel like there were moments in this most recent show, because you and I in the show are pretty much like together for most of it,
for a lot of the show,
and there were moments where I was like, I felt the connection of where we were telling our story in the sense of including that aspect of being like what it is to be queer. I think it probably wasn't prominent for you and for me, because obviously like it's not being told through the lens of you and me. It's being told through the lens of someone else that has their own identity and their own story and their own perspective.
And we had our very prominent struggles.
Yeah.
Mine being, I feel like, mental health.
Yeah.
That's what I at least pulled from it, and I never thought about the whole being queer thing. Because honestly, whenever I talk about my character, I talk about them as them or they. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily know who my character is. Mm-hmm. And so, because I don't know that, and I was given these keys, those are what I was focused on.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting. Now I'm like, dang, can we go back?
Yeah. And for me, it wasn't until like towards the end of the process, like particularly in the piece Higher Power, like there were nights where, particularly on the last night, super heavy. And I think it was, for me, I finally took ownership of that moment and forgot about like, I'm portraying this person, and it's like, no,
I'm portraying me.
This is me. And I felt like you got to a place where like, no, like, this is Whitney right now, and this is Whitney and Abra, and I feel like what happened on the stage is something that probably like would take place in our lives as friends. And
heavy,
very heavy.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So I mean, it's beautiful, and I challenge you.
Dive in that thing.
Yeah.
Get it. Your feet wet.
Come alongside me.
Yeah.
And we'll do it together.
We should. I'm very. Yeah, I feel like I got a goal now. Let's go.
Let's do it.
I'm excited.
That's why we're having this conversation. I mean, like, I try not to come in with like a bunch of agendas, but if y'all haven't realized by now, this is a call out for my fellow queer artists. Like,
come on,
come
home,
and let's create some shit, because it's time.
It is. We're here.
Yeah. And I guess that segues me into, like, where are you seeing clear, accurate representation of, like, queer bodies and queer stories in dance, if at all?
I yearn for that so much, because I don't feel like there's this representation. The craziest part about it is we make up the majority of the dance community. We do. Mm-hmm. Queer people, like, dance is something that we are very much a part of, and I think pioneer in so many ways. And it's interesting that we still take on the agenda of those who aren't queer. I think that's very, like, just like a moment of like, whoa, what? Mm-hmm. When we should be able, I mean, why haven't we told these stories? But then I have to take that responsibility too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's because the gatekeepers of our art form are not, or are still committed to catering to things that are a detriment to us.
For sure.
Because if it were just a matter of like me creating, like, shit, I do that all the time. Yeah. But you need space, you need money, you need movers, you need money to pay your movers. You know.
Sorry, I'm joking.
Oh God. And yeah, you need resources, and a lot of times the gatekeepers that have the resources to give you that, like, they're not interested.
But even when that is the narrative, even when the narrative is about the struggle as a Black person, whatever they can give to that, or a queer struggle, it's almost like they're coddling us. It's almost like I would come to, like, they'll come to you and they'll be like, hey bro, I'm giving you this because I know you know what it's like to be queer, And like, you know, I thought it was really important for you to have this moment. But it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like I want to, the whole superhero thing that I'm just not digging. And so, yeah, I don't see any clear representations of it, personally. But I also need to, what do you say all the time? Stop talking about it and be about it. I need to, like, yeah, just dive into that. And, yeah, now I know a conversation I need to have with you about some stuff that I want to do. So, yeah, I don't. And, it's so hard to find good art these days. And not good art as in, like, I'm judging it from a standpoint of, oh, this is nice, this is lovely. This foot was pointed this way. They hit this way. And in a sense of, like, what just happened with the way I see it. Which I think Kaylin did a really cool job with developing and understanding that as her show was evolving, she was too, and we were too, and that our characters had that room and that space to be human. Because I felt like my character was like maybe PMSing one day, or maybe, you know, going through different things, whereas usually when you get characters, you get this set thing, and you don't see a lot of shows like that anymore. And if it is, you can tell that they throw this umbrella on it of, okay, this is about racial injustice. And you know that I've dove into that a lot as an artist. But, like, there's this umbrella of stuff. And then you just see all these really pretty lines. And then you're like, but what really was that about?
Yeah. It becomes very much about, like, tokenizing people and their identities now. And it being like, I'm creating this controversial work for the sake of controversy, but there's no intention.
I want to disrupt the space.
Yeah, but like, why? Like, why? You know, I want to disrupt the space too.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I'm disrupting because my life depends on it. The quality of my life depends on it, and I'm
disrupting it because I have to worry about the black men in my life every day and them just living their lives, being upstanding citizens, and then being taken for that reason.
Yeah.
Dance, monkey, dance, sit, do this. But I can decide at any time to take you out. I do it because Philando Castile was telling an officer that he had a firearm and that he just wanted to make that aware in the car with his fiance and her child, who was, 4 at the time?
Yeah.
And you shoot him because he was reaching for his registration after you asked for it? He can't talk about it. So that's why I'm disrupting the space.
Yeah.
And I'm also disrupting the space because you want to touch my hair and feel what it feels like. I'm also disrupting the space because you want to call your hair nappy. Because, I swam today and it's a little tangled. I'm disrupting the space because I have to have nude undergarments for a show. And you want to complain about my black bra, but where is the color of my skin that represented, like, boy? And if I do get it, it costs too much. And I got to send it back 4 times because, you know, even little stuff. I'm being tolerated here.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's why I'm disrupting the space. So until you look at me and you say you want to disrupt the space because I'm not tolerated, and you understand that you'll never understand that, then we don't have anything to talk or move about.
Woo!
You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Oh.
Preach on that. And
That
y'all don't look, y'all can't see, but my hands are lifted up.
I just I got followed around the store recently. Still.
In 2019.
But it's 2019. Racism doesn't exist. Racism, Drake. You know, like.
Yeah.
It's more rampant than ever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and it be the ones like right up under you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Loving you, you know.
Yeah.
I love you so much. You know, when we go to the bars and they're like, oh, do that one thing. Watch Whitney dance. Watch April dance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because even like with the bars, like we recently were at a bar together.
Yes.
And we're trying to order drinks. And I've noticed this recently in my life, and then I've had to recount the times where I've been to bars with my white friends, and they go up to the bartender and they're like, I want this and this, and it's so easy. And then when I go up to the bar,
wait for like 30
you're
minutes.
waiting for like 30 minutes, and you know that the bartender sees you, but they don't really see you. You're just something to be passed by. You are a second class citizen, and you start to wonder. You have to have that conversation in your head, like, why am I being ignored? And you know why you're being ignored.
You know that you know why you're being ignored.
But you don't feel comfortable saying that, because then now you have to put on the emotional labor of having to explain to your friends that are with you
something that they're never going to.
Yeah, and then
grasp. Some
of them don't even realize, like, maybe I should utilize my privilege in this moment to get you your drink. or it just becomes this awkward thing, and to the point where I'm like, and the more visible I am in my queerness, so dealing with the intersection of being a woman, being Black, and also being queer, and I recognize that, like, I am still very privileged in that way, because I am a cis woman who presents herself feminine most of the time. But I do recognize that as I've become a little more comfortable in my queerness, I'm starting to play a little more with how I'm embodying, like, femininity and masculinity, how I display, like, public affection towards women, how I communicate attraction towards women in public spaces. And I think sometimes souls just, like, recognize, like, when you're not, like, I think there are people who just can recognize, like, your soul, and recognizing, like, there's something, like, queer about you. And the people that mean well, that can be a really beautiful thing. And but the people that don't, that can be a very dangerous thing.
But what a blessing that is, because with being a woman, whatever that means to so many people, because that is a conversation to definitely have. And I'm just going to say this and leave it there, and you can take it and run with it. Trans lives matter. Black trans lives matter. Times infinity.
Yeah.
I want to scream that in everybody's face every day. How lucky am I to not have to wear the label queer like I have to wear the label Black. Because if they knew, some of them would try to use it to their advantage.
Yeah.
Oh, you like girls, huh? So now I'm your fantasy.
Yeah.
So now, sometimes I'm your fantasy because I am attracted to women and I'm Black.
You become a fetish and not a person.
Or a predator. Because now we have all these arguments about how trans people are allowed to participate in sports and use the bathroom. And it's like, I don't want that person in the bathroom with me, because what if? And then whenever you bring up the argument, like, there are predators in every shape, size, form you can think of. And a lot of them are not trans people. Most of them are not trans people.
Right.
There's a bad apple in every bunch, but most of them are not trans people. And then even if you give them that argument, it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just don't want them hitting them. Like, being queer, like, if I touch you, you become queer. It's so contagious. Did you hear about it?
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
I heard.
Gotta get an antibiotic for that. It's wild because if people knew. Because I don't feel it necessary to be like, hi, my name's Whitney, I'm a black woman, and I'm queer. Now, granted, I do have those conversations with some people that I feel should know. Like, for instance, this is like, I don't know what this means, me saying this on the podcast, but I'm dating a guy right now, right? And so for me, it was important to me that he knew that I was pansexual. Because I don't want the gray areas, and I do want him to ask questions if he has them.
Yeah.
Lucky for me, he's a phenomenal ass dude. He's a great person. And literally, it was just like, cool. Okay. Explain to me what that means. I explain it. That's it. Hands are clean. It could all be so simple in my Lauryn Hill voice. But people really do want to make that shit hard because they are so insecure with self and so used to these rules that these white men made a long time ago that say, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to worship, this is how you need to walk, you need to talk, you need to be this. But you're free, though. You're free. It's incredible. And stories like this are the stories that need to be told in art. We're not doing it enough. We're not talking about Matthew Shepard anymore. And especially not in art. We're not doing anything. That was a long time ago, yep. But it's still happening all the time. We're not talking about the struggle with AIDS. Like, think about, like, when I think about Ailey and all of these dancers, like, when everything started, Bill T. Jones, all these people that you think about in dance and in those early years of the AIDS epidemic. Can you imagine how many dancers left this earth because of that? Yeah. We're not talking about that either. Because in order to talk about now, we have to address our history. Because they paved the way for so many things and died for it. And died in it and died because of. And some of them passed away thinking this was, especially when I think about the AIDS epidemic, it's like, or just Matthew Shepard and what he must have felt being beaten and killed and just tortured the way that he was, dying believing that you're dying because of who you are. I move and I disrupt space. We're back here because of that. I don't feel like I feel like because they died, I have the luxury of not ever having to feel that way. Even if I am struggling and then certain things happen, Jesse, this whole thing happening. Being dishonest is never cool. A lot of y'all motherfuckers are dishonest and y'all are cis men. Heterosexual men. Because what he allegedly lied about, and I use the word allegedly in all caps and bold because I was not there. Right. And I choose to believe victims. What he's allegedly lying about happens every fucking day. Just read an article about another trans woman being murdered. And so, like, the question isn't just like, should this be represented? It's like, we have to represent these things. And now it's like a how. Like, what do I do to not... Because when we were just a part of Liberation Now, how do we portray this grand topic of sex trafficking in this art without offending not the spectators that are just watching, but the victims and the survivors. The survivors.
How do we do it justice without it being this way of getting like cool controversy points, because that is a thing in our industry,
very much so.
It's like what the clickbait, especially with the integration of like social media now, it's like what can get me clicks and
everybody's
attention.
A dancer. Fuck my art,
yeah.
you know?
Yes, yeah. So but yeah, what you're saying, it's not about should it be represented, but how dare we not?
How dare we not?
Because you're right. There is so much richness in our history, but for one thing, it's not being taught in communities and schools. I just saw that Illinois is passing that they are going to include LGBTQ history in schools.
Yes!
But I saw a lot of pushback for that.
Of course. Because I think we're pushing an agenda.
Yeah.
And everybody be gay.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, I was like, child, Tennessee probably going to be one of the last states to pass anything like that.
Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama.
Gonna be like one of the
Florida's tight ass.
Yeah.
God.
So I'm just like, for one thing, it's not being taught, it's not being included in our historical conversations. But even like talking about the joys that we've accomplished as a people, as a community, isn't being discussed. Because I do realize, I see it more in like film and television, where I'm seeing writers and producers wanting to tell stories that are just like, that humanizes queer people, and it not just be this like torture porn where you know there's always the struggle or some historical layout that 9 times out of 10 isn't even particularly accurate to what actually happened.
Even in advertisement, when you see families, it might be 2 men. It's awesome.
Yeah. And so I'm waiting for a lot of my fellow dance artists to catch up to that. And it's so simple. Like when you were saying pick a partner, like I noticed that even in partnering, we get so heteronormative with it, like where it's like the man is gonna lift the woman, and like casting of roles, like in live performance, like with dance and theater, without considering that there are trans and non-binary people and they don't fit into those boxes. So either we need to transform the things that are already set, or we need to create new things that are more accurate to how people are embodying themselves now, and give them the microphone, give them the space to tell their own stories. I'm getting really tired of people trying to tell my story, especially when they don't even consult me. Okay?
Period.
I have so much more respect for at least consult me, you know, and to say, am I doing this right? Am I telling this story right? But a lot of times that doesn't happen, and I'm just being used as this like body, you know, whereas who better to tell the story than me? Because it's mine, you know, and it's part of me. And I think, you know, there's just a lot of gatekeepers in our field that are just so, but you're right, part of it is on us, the responsibility to challenge those gatekeepers, to create our own gates.
Dude, we have a mission. We're fixing to build a fucking gate. We're about to do it.
Yeah.
It's until we sat down and talked about it, it's never been more clear to me. It's just like, yeah, for sure.
We're getting rid of the gates.
Yeah.
And creating...
Why do we have to have gates?
Yeah, creating an open space where people are just free to tell their stories, tell it with enthusiasm and safety.
Safety. Keyword.
Keyword.
Like, safety.
Do you feel safe, like, in this industry, like, as a queer artist, like, truly?
Hell no. But I also don't feel safe in this industry, even putting the labels aside, putting the woman, the black, the queer aside. I'm a quirky girl, period.
Mm-hmm.
I always have been. I wasn't always physically quirky, though. I didn't always, like, allow myself to sink into that.
Yeah.
But especially training under people like Lucas Vanderfect and Justin Conte, who always speak that you're an artist all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're a walking piece of art. And going to auditions where I'm told, oh, you're really good, but you have blue hair. Oh, you're really good, but, like, would you get a weave or, like, cut your hair or, like, straighten or, like, that? I don't even feel comfortable there. Mm-hmm. So how can I feel comfortable anywhere else? Mm-hmm. But you see, my hair is still blue. Mm-hmm. And I'm still queer and black and all that other stuff. So at this point, I don't think I even seek safety from this industry, to be honest. That sounds really sad. Mm. But I do seek to make myself a safe space for other artists. Mm. So that one day somebody will be able to say, yeah, I feel safe. Because even if it's just me and you creating that space, you know, the space is there. It's a lot easier, I feel, in this context to build those things than it is to destruct them. People are going to come at you and come at us, but it's that foundation is there and it's solid and it is what it is, you know?
I love that. Making yourself a safe space for somebody else. Mm-hmm. I definitely feel like that is happening for me. Even in the beginning, before I was even willing to accept myself, I noticed people gravitate to me, and we created these safe spaces for ourselves. Like, I think back to my years in college. Shout out to Maura Naughton, my love, my light. Before we were even ready to admit to ourselves the fullness of who we are, it was like, it was very unsafe. And I didn't even know why, you know, because back then I was still very, like, holy roller, like, Jesus is gonna deliver me from this deviancy one day if I just hang on a little longer. But the universe, like, bringing kindred souls together to say, here's this safe space for you. Even if you don't have the understanding now, here's this safe space for you that is preparing a way for you to continue to build and build and build. And I see it, like, growing, and I sense a great shifting and awakening about to occur with the people that have entered my life for various reasons, but have solidified, like, a common ground of wanting to be a people and a space of love and acceptance and safety, a haven for others who are lost in this scary forest of lies and oppression and fear. And it's exciting. It's scary as fuck, though. Because it feels like a lot of responsibility.
It is,
but it's exciting, and I don't know. That's why I'm doing all of this. I feel like it's so people realize, hey, you're not alone, and you can come into this with, like, no strings, no agendas, just allowing you to be.
You do a good job.
Well, thank you.
I know that. I am every day inspired by you, and even in physical absence, There's this energy that I feel, like this pull between the both of us, and I really appreciate that, because I think that it helps ground me in what I know I'm called to do and what I know that I want to do. So, and I know you do that for so many other people other than little old me, but like, you know, like that's definitely a strength of yours, and you're always welcome to say, chill, I can't be your beacon of light today. I'm fucking dark. And that's okay. And I'll talk to you later. Hold, please. You know?
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the space to be dark sometimes, because a lot of times I'm in a lot of darkness but not given the space to fully embody that and process that and then pick up my light again. So thank you for that. That is, don't be having me emotional on my podcast, girl.
I'm sorry, you started it. So.
Whatever. I mean, there have been times where we've recorded episodes and I'm like, hey, bye. And I just bawl. And I'm like, that was so beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, I feel like we've
covered everything.
We've covered it, like, yeah. Any last thoughts or, well, Alicia is not here with us and she usually does Song of the Week. Would you bless us
with a song?
With a song, Sister Gaston.
Ooh. Can it be anything?
It can be anything. Especially since last, Alicia hasn't really been singing much, like, these days. She's like, I'm not going to sing today. I'm just going to plug this artist. Yeah. Or I'm going to say a little poem. No
y'all
shade.
Y'all don't want me to sing because, I mean, Alicia can sing. If I sing, y'all might never listen to this podcast again. And or they might not ever ask me to come back, and I would love to come back. So I'm just
you're coming back because you're coming back.
So I don't want to say this artist's name wrong, but I feel like her name is a play on the word Asian, but it might just be her name. So if she hears this, I'm like super embarrassed, and I just love you as an artist. But she spells it Asiahn. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about.
And she is LGBTQ.
Yes.
And she is running my mind right now because I'm like, there's this. So, I mean, just to put it out there before we wrap things up, I'm so sick of hearing the, you're too pretty to be a lesbian thing. What? What does that even mean? But you don't get this representation of queer women being
gorgeous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everyone is beautiful, but
fucking gorgeous.
You see this girl and she's just like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. And yeah, she's got on her heels. I'm not in any form or fashion about brands and things, so I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like I know what kind of shoes they are or anything like that. But she likes to wear these form-fitting dresses. She likes to beat her face. She loves the makeup. I don't, but I appreciate it and I wear it sometimes. You just don't see that representation. Mm-hmm. So I say listen to everything she puts out. Period. Listen to it.
Period.
It's actually really good.
Period.
And she gets into relationships with women and like some of the complexities of those and some of the complexities of relationships in general, but it's addressed in the way of a woman being with a woman, and I just find it so freaking refreshing. Mm-hmm. I can't take it. It's so good. Just to go on that, just the same trajectory of what we've been talking about. I think it's fitting. I'm assuming her name is Asian. Don't you think so?
I think so.
I think so too. Asian. That's what we're gonna say. Like You is on the radio, so people have probably heard that.
Yeah.
But everything else is really great.
Yeah,
and I know everybody is really mad at Daniel Caesar right now, but
well, and yeah, that happened after we recorded the episode of Cancel Culture, and I thought that was super.
Right
and I remember texting Alicia, and I was like, "Babe, why is it that every time we record an episode, something else happens, like the day after we release it?" So I'm interested to see if something happens after I release this episode. Okay.
Here we go.
Hopefully it'll be good, positive, queer joy
good
things.
We're gonna say it is. We're gonna manifest that.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to shameless plug yourself? Where can people find you if you want to be found?
So I think I can give y'all my Instagram. I don't be on it, but yeah, I did this social media cleanse and just never submerged myself back in it. But I post here and there. So if you want to find me on Instagram, you can find me at Whitney Cole, but instead of the I's, you're going to use an X. So it's W as in Walter. No, let's do this. W as in William. H is in Hope. X is in Xylophone.
Wow.
Isn't that what?
Yeah.
T is in Tom. N is in Nancy. X is in Xylophone. C is in Cool. O is in Octopus. L is in Lesbian. E is in Ethiopian. Yeah. I know y'all probably I didn't get any of that. But it's just with Nicole without the X's. Yeah. I mean, with Nicole without the I's.
And replace them with the X's. And we'll have them in the show notes. So and we'll tag you and everything. And you're also in these Twitter streets as well.
Yeah, that one's a little different. That's Oh So With It. So you know how people are like, "Are you with it?" And I like that. Spell my name though. OHSOWHITIT. Yeah. Twitter. I love Twitter. You will catch me on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Talk about some stuff. And if you get on my Twitter, please go to my pinned tweet and talk about it, because people are afraid of talking about sexuality, and I want to talk about it because it's important.
And see, I want to have you back on the show so we can talk about sex and sexuality.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm trying to warm up, and I'm sure we freak some people out with our Signs and Wonders episode. They're like, wait, I did not sign up for this. Dude. But I'm we're here for all of it. So let's get uncomfortable with us, because Alicia and I love talking about that kind of stuff. And
I love having conversations about sex. About sexuality. I think that once I discovered and really dug my heels into mine and just really owned it, now that's all I want to talk about. I'm like, let's go. And this pin tweet Abra so graciously contributed to. But in case you need to know what it's about so that you can just scurry on over there and talk with us, I said I pinned this because I'm sick of seeing homophobia and so many things, especially in the Black community and music and culture, and it's just awful. And so I said just a few things that don't determine someone's sexuality: the way they dress, the way they speak, society's projections of quote-unquote femininity and masculinity, if they acknowledge the beauty of someone else, no matter the gender, and you.
Woo!
Yeah, that's the biggest one, you. So please, follow me on Twitter. Let's talk about some shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will join. I would love to see people join in on that conversation more. I'm always interested to know what people are thinking about. So yeah, follow Whitney, y'all. She is amazing. I'm so thankful for you. Thank you for coming over. It's always good to have you.
Come on over.
Come on over, baby.
That culture, Christina.
Come on, I know. And thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you, and thank you and Alicia for having this podcast. It's super dope. It is.
Thank you. Dope. Thank you for supporting us.
Anytime.
Little old PKs, and you're always welcome in the PK Club.
PK Club.
Hey.
We want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. Continue the conversation with us. Develop a community with other misfits and mystics like us, and get your latest updates on shameless plugs and other news by following us on social media. We are on Instagram at Misfits and Mystics Pod, Twitter at Misfits Mystics, and we also have a Facebook page that you can like and share.
Want to reach us directly? Shoot us an email at misfitsandmysticspod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, and with your permission, we might give you a shout out on future episodes.
Don't forget to subscribe on whatever streaming service you're using to stay up to date on newest episodes being released.
Leave us a review on iTunes to help us gain more visibility. Plus, we appreciate the feedback.